Here we have an example of a marking key. Now, a marking key is developed by examiners to capture all possible answers regarding the income statement, the statement of retained earnings, and the balance sheet. So this marking key can be adapted for a number of different types of financial statements. So we're going to use this now for Whitton Corporation. Now, to begin with, the income statement we start off with, and the first thing is the heading. And the heading must have the name of the company, the type of statement, this i.e. the income statement, and the date for the year ending December 12th. Now, if all those three are there and presented in without short forms, then we would mark that with a 2. Okay? So that would be 2. The revenue section then would be the first thing, and it would be headed up, revenue, and in there would be a revenue account, and the total carried to the outside. And again, that would be 2, so we'll put 2 out here. Now, if the student added another account, which was not a revenue account, then we would deduct, we would have given them 2, we would have given 1 instead. Now, the expense section. Again, the heading. Expenses, if they have that clearly identified, 1 mark. And then they list all the expenses in any type of order. So we would give 1 mark for each expense. And on this exam, in this example, there were 5 expenses. Now, I would give them 5. But if there was something in there that was not an expense, I would give them 4. If there were 2 things in there that were not expenses, and they had all 5, but they had 2 more that were not expenses, then they would end up getting 3. In this case, it's 5. Now, regardless, if they had the revenue section wrong or any of the expense sections wrong, we ignore that. We've already taken the marks off for that. So when it comes to the bottom part of the income statement, we just have, if they've indicated revenue minus expenses, even though the revenue may be wrong or the expenses would be wrong, the answer would not be the answer you're looking for, but the fact is they knew that they had to subtract expenses from revenue, so we would give them 1 mark. Okay? And that would be for the income statement. So you see there's a possibility of about 11 marks there for this Whitton Corporation. Now we move to the retained earnings. Again, is this statement headed up with the name of the company, the name of the statement, retained earnings, and the date for the period ending, year ending, whatever, December 12th? And the answer is yes, so we would give them 2. Then does the student indicate that they start with retained earnings beginning, which is from the statement of accounts, and that is worth 1 mark. Then they add the net income. Now, the net income is whatever they got up here. Even if it's wrong, they add it. They take the net income that they have gotten here, whatever that answer is, and put it here. We give them 2 marks for that. If there were dividends, and dividends would be deducted, they showed that, 1 mark. And they summarize it all with retained earnings ending. Okay, so there's an extra 6 marks there. Now we get to the balance sheet. Balance sheet is a little more involved. Again, the heading, the name of the company, the name of the statement, and the date as at December 31st. 2 marks there. The current asset section is identified. Now, in this section, they list the current assets, cash, accounts receivable, inventory, in the proper order, 3. If they have them out of order, 2. Okay. No order at all, 1, but they just know the current assets and they're correct. But if they add in something that's not a current asset, you take 1 mark off. But if they're down to 0, you can't take 1 mark off. Then the next section, property, plant, and equipment, or fixed assets, or what have you. If they list them properly with the accumulated depreciation, and if there's 1, then I give them 2 marks. If there's 2, I give them 4 marks. But in this case, there's only one, so we give them 2 marks. Then they show the total assets. They knew to add them up. That's okay. So we got 3 here and 2 here. Then we move to the liabilities, and they list them, and in this case, 2 marks. Then they go to the shareholders' equity section. They show the common stock, 1 mark. And they take the retained earnings from up here. Even if it's wrong, they use the same one that they used up there. They get 2 marks. Anything else, just 1 mark if you don't like what they've done. If they're sort of fudging the retained earnings, but they knew it should be something. They're trying to make this balance. No, the idea is they take it directly from here. Then we total it, 1 mark, and we give that. So for the balance sheet, you can see we have 5, 7, 8, 10, 12 marks. So up here, for the income statement, 2, 4, 6, 11 marks. For the retained earnings, 6 marks. And for down here, 12 marks. So we have a total here of 29. Then professionalism. Did they organize it properly? Is it in columns? They didn't use short forms. It looks professional. 1, 2, or 3. Of course, I'll give myself 3. But the max is 30, and I actually have, in this case, 32, but the max amount of marks is 30 for the income statement, retained earnings, and balance sheet. And generally, that's how we mark financial statements. Now, other financial statement questions on exam may be more involved, so there'll be more marks. But at least you see now that you must be consistent. The income statement leads into the retained earnings statement, and the retained earnings then goes down into the balance sheet. And a word of advice, if you don't balance, don't worry. You may have made a mistake somewhere. You won't get 30, you'll get 29 or 28. But if you try and fudge it and change the retained earnings so that it does balance, you're going to lose marks. So even if it doesn't balance, just go with it. You could pick up some marks on being professional about it. If you try and fudge the numbers, that's not very professional. So this is a way in which we, as examiners, mark income statements.